Okay, so here we are today. I'm going to give you the very basics of how to set up a feeder rod. And show you how to use a reel. So here we go. So with a feeder rod, you normally get 2 or 3 different tips, and they're different thicknesses. And some are for rivers, some are for rivers that are flowing, and some are for lakes. So generally, when you fish a lake, you would use the thinner top, which is this one here. So I'm going to use this thinner top, and I'm going to put it into there, and you make sure that the rings line up nicely. And here's the butt section. Again, push it in there and make sure the rings line up. Okay, then you're going to need a reel. Here's a reel, and the reel goes onto this little reel fitting at the bottom. You tuck it into there, tuck it into there, and we wind that up nicely. Okay, so that's your reel on the rod butt. Now, on the reel you've got a handle. Now this reel has been set up for a right-handed angler. So a right-handed angler would hold the rod in his right hand with his index finger just over the side of there, and the rest of his hand that side like that. So you'd hold your reel, your rod like that. It's a nice balance. If you hold it like that, it's all awkward. If you hold it like that, it's even more awkward. You hold it like that. That's the way to hold a reel. Some anglers might do it like that, but I would do it like that. Okay. Now, if you're left-handed, you have to undo that little screw all the way off. Okay. I might as well show you how it's done. So don't drop the screw, and you put the reel handle on the other side, put the screw on this side. Okay, but I'm right-handed, so we have it back the way we want it. Goes in there, screw that up. At the end of the day, if you leave that screw a little bit loose, you can actually collapse the handle, and it makes it tuck away in your box easier. But today we're going to tighten that up. So there's your reel. Okay, so you need a spool with some line on it, which comes with the reel. If it don't come with the reel, you've been done. And you push it over there, give it a little twist so it clicks in. If you want to take it off for any reason, push that button on the end, pull it off. Some reels have got a little screw cap on it. This one just a push button. Here you go. It's only a cheap reel, but it's going to do everything you want. Now this is the bail arm. Now this bail arm actually runs the line back onto your reel. So if you want to take the line off your reel to thread it up through your rods, you've got to undo the bail arm. Okay, and this is the line clip. There's 2 reasons for this. You can put the line on it when you finish fishing at the end of the day, and whilst you're fishing you can also use it, but that's ready for another video. Okay, so I'm going to take the line and I'm going to pass it through the rings. And make sure as you're passing it through the rings you don't cross over and do that, because if you do you won't be able to cast, because that line will be catching on the rod all the time. So make sure you don't do that. I've seen it done a few times. I've even done it myself without thinking, and causes you loads of grief because you have to undo all your tackle and start again. So we're going to run the line all the way through. There you go. Now, pull it to the end, and now we can put that bail arm over, reel it up a little bit, and that's going to stop the line from pulling through. Okay, so there's a couple of other things you need to know. You've got a clutch setting on the reel, and the clutch setting is set so that if you get a big fish, it doesn't break your line. So see, if I pull that tight, a big fish could break that line. So I'll undo that clutch setting there a little bit. Now I've got a big fish, that will give, so it won't break the line. So now I've got the clutch setting as I want it, and obviously depending on the size of fish that you're targeting, the strength of line you're using, you'd set that clutch accordingly. You've also got what they call a back line facility, and if you've never fished with a reel before, I'll forget about this for a little while, but here you go, there's a little clip there. If you undo that clip, it allows you to reel backwards, and that, if you've got a big fish doing a sudden run, you can reel it backwards and let the line off. But if you're new to fishing and you tend to reel the wrong way, you see what's happening there, you're going to get a big bird's nest. So you're better off to start with, put that clip over so you can only reel one way, so you get used to which way you reel to reel the line in, which is anti-clockwise. Okay, so now we've got the line through the rod, and what I'm going to do, just to teach you how to cast in the next session, is I'm going to tie a little lead onto the end of the line, and I'm going to do a very basic half blood knot here, and there's our lead on our line, ready for the next video. Thank you. Okay, so this is, now that we've set our rod up with our reel, this is part 2, and this is just basically how you're going to cast a lead. Now, I've tied a bomb on the end of this rod here. You wouldn't normally fish with just a bomb and no line and no hook or anything, but what I recommend is you do this to start with before you start putting hooks and baits and everything else on. Do this first and get competent with the actual casting of a weight. So here we got a little bit of line between our rod tip there and our bomb, which is far too long. If I reel this up to there, that is far too short. What we need is about there. I'd say 2'6" to 3 foot is where you want your lead below your rod tip to cast. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the line with my finger there. So I've taken the bail arm off and I'm going to hold my line with my finger there. And once I've cast the line from behind me, as I cast it out, as the rod hits about 12 o'clock, then I'm going to let go of that finger, let the reel rod go forward a little bit, not too much, which I'll explain later, and then let the weight take the line off of the reel so it goes out into wherever you want to cast. Okay, so let me cast this out, and on our very first cast, what we want to try and do is stop the lead from going into orbit. So what we might want to do is then put that finger on there to stop the line, okay, to stop it from going any further. So we're going to pick a spot where we're going to want to be fishing, and it's very important with feeder fishing that you hit the same spot every time. So that's what I recommend before you actually start fishing. Make sure you've got your distance right before you start putting feed all over the lake, because if you do that, you'll have fish all over the lake and you'll limit your chances. So what I do is I'll hold the rod like this and I'll swing it behind me, and you get a feel, you sort of feel the weight there. As you feel the weight there, then you can cast it forward, let go of that finger. I'm not going to do that now because I'll end up with the leg going forward, and out to there, and then as you let it go, it keeps it going. So I'll aim for a spot on the far bank. So I'm going straight behind me and I'm looking for a spot on the far bank, and I just keep my eye on the spot on the far bank. I mean, I'm going to cast. I've got it trapped around the top of the rod. That's not supposed to happen, but it will happen to you. So let's start again. So here we are. You should do things in slow motion. So here we go round behind us. And we'll let it go, and I'm going to stop the line, and you see where the bomb has landed there. Okay, so now what we want to do, if that's the spot we want to end up fishing, then we've got this little line clip, what I told you in the last video. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put that line around that clip, like that. Okay, now I'm going to cast it. Now I'm going to reel back in again. So we started there about 3 foot, and then we're going to come behind us, feel that weight and go forward. 12 o'clock, let it go, hit the clip. Now that bomb has hit that same spot, okay, and then put the bail arm over, and then we can pull the rod round and put it on the rod rest. Now if we just look at that rod tip now, there's a bend in that rod tip, okay, and I want to put that rod onto the rod rest. So a lot of anglers make this mistake. They'll then pull the rod around like that, and they're moving their feeder on their lead across the bottom, okay? So they're doing two things. All the feed in their feeder is going all the way across the bottom, and they're dragging their hook across all sorts of snags before they put it onto the rod rest, okay? And if you look really carefully, look, there's a carp just come up on the surface there, right in front of the rod tip. Not many carp in Redbridge Lakes, one's coming along to see what I'm doing. So To avoid that happening, I'm going to do something else. Just reel in. So this time we're going to cast out and make sure we've got a bit of slack line so we can bring our rod back onto the rod rest without moving our feeder on the bottom. So here we go, we've got 2 or 3 foot of line. Look on the far bank, same spot as we did before, but this time we let go at 12 o'clock, but then we bring our rod behind us rather than following it through. And that will give us a bit of slack line. So just watch this. We're going to go through there. We're going to go, let go, then back. Now, what's happened there is the line's already hit the clip again, but this time I've got a lot of slack line, so I can afford to put the rod down on the rod rest. I can bring the bail arm back over, and now I can reel the slack line up. If you watch the rod tip, I'm reeling the slack line up. Watching the rod now, it's just tightened up now. Now there's your slack line tightened up to the rod tip, and we've not moved the feeder across the bottom, which is really important, because if you start moving the feeder across the bottom, as I said before, you'll start spreading bait all across the lake and taking your hook bait out of where you're been casting. So there you go. And if you get a bite, I'll just show you by putting the line. If you look at the rod tip, if I pull the line, you'll get a bite which will be like that. Okay, and when you get a bite, all you need to do is lift it up and reel it in. 99 times out of 100, you don't need to strike when feeder fishing. 99 times out of 100, by the time you've got a bite, the fish has already hooked itself. And a lot of people miss bite because they just pull the hook straight out of the fish's mouth. So remember that one. That's your lot until we go on to types of feeders on the next video. Thank you.